Welcome to the public council meeting of May 4th, 2020. Ms. Stutz, may I have roll call, please?
Councilman Cicala.
Here.
Councilman Maceri.
Here.
Councilman Tanella.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Peterson. Mayor Varga.
Here. May I ask everybody to please rise for the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was a little bit more coordinated than in times in the past. Appreciate
that. Getting better.
We are getting better at that. Okay, let me do this. Good evening. Adequate notice of this meeting was duly provided to the Verona Cedar Grove Times and the Star Ledger by email and published in an annual schedule of meetings on December 26th, 2019, filed with the Township Clerk and updated on April 29th, 2020, and posted in the public bulletin board in the municipal building lobby in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-1, please take notice that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the May 4th, 2020 regular public meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Cedar Grove will be held via conference call and not in the council chambers of the municipal building. The public will be able to listen to the meeting and participate during public comment by calling 1-866-305-0232 and entering the participant code 933490 on the day and time of the meeting. Okay. All right. So today, just a couple of logistical items. We will go through the open public comment at the end of the meeting, and we will go through each number that has dialed in. So when you hear your number, the last 4 digits of your number, your line will be unmuted. At this time, all lines are unmuted except for the council members and all participants, including Mr. Shimurero, Mr. Tucci, and Mrs. Stutz. So we're going to go, it looks like we have a pretty short agenda today. So we'll go through the agenda in the normal course. We do obviously have our COVID-19 update that Mr. Tucci will provide, and but for purposes of this meeting, we're going to go through line by line, and if any of the council members have any items to add, we'll add it during those portion of their reports. Item number 2A, approval of minutes. To consider approval of minutes of regular public meeting, April 6th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Second. Thank you, Councilman Cicala and Councilman Maceri on the second. Roll call.
Councilman Cicala.
Yes.
Councilman Maceri.
Yes.
Councilman Tanella.
Yes.
Mayor Varga.
Yes. Item 2B on the agenda, to consider approval of minutes of special public meeting, April 20th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Cicala.
Second, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Tanella. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala.
Yes.
Councilman Maceri.
Yes.
Councilman Tanella.
Yes.
Mayor Varga.
Yes. Item 3 on the agenda, award of bid. To consider resolution concerning award of bid for replacement of Morgan's Farm in-house roof.
Be it resolved that the award of bid be made to Northeast Roof Maintenance Incorporated of Perth Amboy, New Jersey.
Make a motion to approve, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Tanella. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala.
Yes.
Councilman Maceri.
Yes.
Councilman Tanella.
Yes.
Mayor Varga.
Yes. And I just want to thank the council and Mr. Tucci for putting that together. You know, I know it was a long-awaited roof repair that they were looking into, and we had some solutions in place. But being that it's a historic building, I can tell you that I know the Historical Society really appreciates it, and it will allow us to keep having our residents there and enjoying that building for years to come. So thank you all. And thank you, Mr. Tucci, for putting that out to bid for us.
Mm-hmm.
Item number 4 on the agenda, the meeting is open to residents of the township wishing to be heard on any item on the agenda. As a reminder to all residents, you're on mute. Anything off the agenda will be held until the end. So we will unmute all of our lines. I'll wait 10 seconds. And if I hear nothing, we will then go back on mute and proceed with the meeting. So go ahead if we can unmute all the lines.
All guests have been unmuted. You will now rejoin the meeting.
So at this point in time, if there's anybody wishing to be heard on any item on the agenda, now would be the time.
This is Kevin McVeigh, 19 Briarwood Terrace, guys. I urge you to approve the resolution concerning the extension of the grace period for second quarter property tax payments, please.
Yes, Mr. McVeigh, how are you? This is Mayor Robbie Vargo here. I believe your question was with regard.
Good, Robbie, how are you?
I'm doing well. Your question is with regard to item 6B on the agenda, the resolution concerning extension of the grace period for second quarter property taxes.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
McVeigh? Okay. So we do have that on the agenda, and I'm sorry, what was your question on that item?
I'm urging you to approve that resolution.
Understood. Thank you. And we'll have some more discussion about that when we get to item 6A on the agenda. You know, I'm sure we'll have a discussion. And then well, I appreciate that, Mr. McVeigh. Anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other residents wishing to be heard on any item on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close that portion of the meeting. We will now proceed to put all residents back on mute, and I'm going to do a 5-second delay so that way we can do that.
Would you like your guests to be able to?
I clipped it.
All guests have been muted. You will now rejoin the meeting.
Okay, so it appears that that worked. We're going to go to all of the reports of the township officials. This is the portion when we would usually do our COVID-19 update. Our updates are getting more efficient, so I'm going to just defer to Mr. Tucci. I believe he will touch on all of the items for COVID-19. Mr. Tucci.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Regarding the COVID-19 reporting, I just want to go over a few things. First of all, we just got the latest report as of 7 p.m. this evening. Our numbers are as such. There are 347 confirmed cases in Cedar Grove. We went up at 8 this evening, and 82 confirmed deaths. That's 2 additional above. But what I want to highlight in this report is this. Our nursing homes comprise 63% of that number. And that's just, if you take the 63% out of the 347, that means the Cedar Grove number in the general population is 128, all right? And of the 82 deaths, I think all but 4 are related to senior properties. And while I'm on that subject, I'd just like to highlight the numbers in the nursing homes because I just was able to get a report here. At Alaris, there are 65 cases with 10 deaths. And again, these numbers are not going to correlate to our town one because these are the total number in nursing homes, which include out-of-town residents that are there and not just Cedar Grove residents. So I just want to clarify that point. So at Alaris, there's 65 cases and 10 deaths. At Canterbury, there's 97 cases and 17 deaths. Arbor Glen, there's 37 cases and 8 deaths. At St. Joe's, 107 cases and 25 deaths. At Waterview, there's 71 cases and 19 deaths. At the Essex County Hospital Center on Grove Avenue, 14 cases with no deaths. In our own senior citizen complex, we have 3 cases with 2 deaths there. So that's the total breakdown of just the senior population, because we do have 5 nursing homes and the county hospital here in our community, plus a senior citizen residence. So that's where the bulk of our numbers are coming from, because everybody looks at the map and they look at our report and say, wow, we have a really high disproportionate number compared to other communities of our size. But if you take out the machinations of the seniors, really we're relative to our sister communities at that point. Again, I want to highlight 63% of everything that's coming in is related to senior.
Mr.
Yes,
if I may,
go ahead.
Thank you for that update. It's, hearing those numbers, it really brings, puts things in perspective. And, those are some high numbers. And we do have our senior facilities here in town. One of the things I did want to stress is that your last statement, which when you take out the 63%, it puts us relatively in line with our sister communities. I get the same report as you, as we all get the same report from the county. And when you really look at those numbers, we are, Cedar Grove is doing the right things as a community. We're all being safe. We appreciate it. We just have to continue to practice social distancing. So thank you, Mr. Tucci, on that point. Go ahead, please.
And there's another issue I'd like to highlight. Over this past weekend, we saw a spike, in just one of the nursing homes, which I don't like to call out any individual one, but one had 27 cases, which were our total bump for that particular day. And, the police chief and I went out and we asked the question of our health officer, why this big spike when we've been seeing 3, 4, 5, it's been on a downturn. What happens is this: 2 of our nursing homes, St. Joe's and Waterview, decided that they would do comprehensive testing of every patient in the facility, whether they're asymptomatic or symptomatic, and all the staff. And that's what attributed to the bump. So we had two nursing homes so far do across the board testing of everyone. And we're going to see that probably in the other 3. So you may see little spikes, but what we're seeing is, besides that, a little bit of a flattening at this point. As everyone's aware, we did open our park, community park in Morgan's Farm over the past weekend with restriction, of course. The parks were fairly crowded, but everyone, I have to report, was very compliant with what the regulations are, and they were considerate of one another. Also, the personal protective equipment, in some spots there was some on the ground, but for the most part, people did dispose of it correctly. And again, this is a moving situation. We will evaluate and continue to evaluate, and wherever we can lessen up, we will at the appropriate time. But again, we're going to crawl here. We're in no sprint here. This is not a marathon, and we have to make sure that the residents of the community are safe. Another item I'd like to highlight is this. I got a call from a doctor's office, a Dr. Stephen Smith. I believe he resides in Essex Fells. He has a lot of donation money from big donors, and he's offering to do free COVID-19 testing for town employees right now. And depending upon how his funds go, they may open it up in the future to everyone in the community. And we're going to probably do a pilot program here this Friday downstairs in the Center Company Police Department Bay. We're going to offer it, and it's not mandatory, it's voluntary. Anybody wants to be tested from the police department, fire department, DPW, and town hall will be tested for free on Friday. So that was a good bit of news. Go ahead.
Mr. Tucci, that's great news. I have 2 questions. When you say testing, is that for testing whether somebody tests positive, or is that an antibody test?
No, it's a COVID-19 test. It's not an antibody test.
Not an antibody test.
Not an antibody test, yes.
Okay, and then going back to the farms, you mentioned community park, Mr. Tucci.
Yes.
You did also will open up Morgan's Farm on a very limited basis as well. And perhaps we want to go over those restrictions unless you had that at a different portion of your.
No, I can go over that right now. But I'm going to go over the whole memo that we had put out to the public. First of all, Community Park was open Friday, May 1st, and it was for passive recreation only. That was the only activities allowed. And we defined passive recreation as bike riding, jogging, walking, or hiking. Playground and the restrooms will remain closed. Team sports, organized activities, picnics, and social gatherings were prohibited. Social distancing of 6 foot had to be maintained while participating in any of the above activities, and facial coverings and masks were strongly recommended at this point. Parking at Community Park, we recommended that it be staggered, not utilizing every space, because even when people pull up next to each other, if you roll down the window and talk to each other, every space is too close. All ball fields remain closed. Panther Park, George Street Park, Little Falls Road tennis courts and basketball courts and Blasey Field were closed until further notice. Morgan's Farm was reopening on a limited basis for passive recreation only, and the farmers market activity was allowed with restrictions, and the restrictions were as follows. Only 2 persons were allowed to operate the stand, and they had to practice social distancing and wear face masks or covering. And customers were only allowed to remain in their vehicles with transactions taking place through the window of the vehicle, and there were to be no cash transactions, only credit card or debit card only. And again, reminder on personal protective equipment, please dispose of it in a proper fashion to keep our environment clean. So those were the restrictions that we put out over the weekend. Also, I just want to highlight that we will continue to put out the numbers, not only the Cedar Grove numbers, but the nursing home numbers, so that people can get a visual and understand our numbers better. But again, I just want to remind everybody, our Cedar Grove numbers are not going to match with the nursing home numbers, only because there are residents in there that don't live in Cedar Grove, so they don't count our number count. So basically, that's my report on COVID-19 for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Tucci. And just as a reminder, for those listening or watching this later, we do publish a daily situational awareness report that can be found on the township's website. And if some of the numbers that Mr. Tucci talked about, including these 63% and the daily numbers, they are all in that situational awareness report. So you can find that right at the front page of the township website. Okay, thank you, Mr. Tucci.
Mm-hmm. And then the only other item I have as part of my report is you have a correspondence letter from a Michael Fry, and we could discuss that at the next staff meeting if we don't want to do it this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Tucci.
You're welcome.
Can everybody hear me okay? I just got
You are breaking up.
My internet was unstable. We're good. Good evening, Mr. Stutz. I'm breaking up.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor. No report.
Thank you, Ms. Stutz. Am I good still? Just for the council colleagues, if you can't hear me, just wave your hand or something like that. Thank you. Item 5C, good evening, Mr. Cimarero.
Good evening, Mayor. I have no report this evening.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Councilman, item 5D on the agenda, Councilman Cicala. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Just want to continue to urge everyone, as Mr. Tucci said and you said before, Mayor, to continue with the social distancing. It makes a difference, and continue picking up after yourself. I noticed from the last time that we had a council meeting, there has been some more litter in the Foodtown parking lot that I've noticed. So please pick up after yourself. There's plenty of trash cans around, or I guess I should say the fresh grocer parking lot now, right? There are plenty of trash cans around. It's very important you take your used masks, your used gloves, and you dispose of them properly. And it is a violation of our town ordinance not to do so. And if the police see it, you're going to be fined and summoned. So, but please continue to stay safe. And, we're, as you like to say, Mayor, we're going to get through this. Just snail's pace, but we're getting there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cicala. Another day closer to normalcy, hopefully.
Let's hope.
Frozen, Mayor.
Froze on me. It's freezing, it seems like. I'm going to dial in.
It's a good picture of you, though. If it makes you feel better.
I feel so much better now.
I'm sure you do.
Give me a second to dial in as well. Just
Joe's
so I don't.
making you look good.
I'm sorry. This is what happens when you take a call at your house and you have 4 children competing for Wi-Fi with you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to dial in as a backup. Give me 1 second. Okay. The meeting is 9:33. Jeff, you're going to have a 9578 calling in. Okay. Jeff, to the extent, I'm going to keep that on mute. And to the extent I lose connection, I will then unmute that line and we'll have no interruption.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, Councilman Maceri, I was on you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. For my report, I just had a couple of follow-up questions for Mr. Tucci regarding COVID. Mr. Tucci, can you give us a state of the police department? How are we doing? Any issues? Anybody impacted in the department by COVID, or how's that running?
That's a very good question. The answer to the question is all our men and women are fine. They're healthy. They're coming to work. And I have to add, they're doing a fantastic job. I mean, these folks are out there helping the public in every which way they can. Also, they have an old mailbox out in the front for COVID-19 donations, meaning N95 masks, gloves, so on and so forth. These folks not only are using it themselves, they're distributing it where it's needed, whether it be in the senior citizen facility, whether it be in a nursing home that's short. So these people are out there helping everybody in the community. And my hat's off to them, the fire department, and our ambulance and rescue squad, and Atlantic, who's our backup right now. Because these folks really have a heart and they really care. But I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you.
It's fantastic. Thank you. With regard to the equipment, that was one of my questions as well. How are we looking with PPE for the municipal officers and for town employees? Are we looking that we have sufficient supplies, or where does that stand?
At this point, we are in pretty good supply at this point. I have to add that we did get some equipment from the county through the emergency management. So, Jeff McElroy, who's our emergency management coordinator, has, put in for more. So whatever's in the hopper, there could be more coming here. So, but as of right now, we're in pretty good shape, I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Tucci. I had another question, Mayor. This is for our township attorney, Mr. Cimararo. Is there anything that we need to do as a governing body, given the status of Cedar Grove and the situation with COVID? Is there anything that we need to do to prepare in the event that there is federal aid or state aid that's coming? How does that impact the municipalities like Cedar Grove that have the nursing homes with these numbers? I just wanted to know if you heard anything, or if there's anything we should do to prepare for that.
I actually haven't heard anything per se, and I think that Mr. Tucci's he's really on top of that. He has the communication with the superior forms of government. So I think that he would be more inclined to catch.
Mark, if I could piggyback on what you're saying here.
Yeah.
Just want to let you know, as of right now, there's some supply line of equipment coming down the pike. But what's going to happen is, and this is happening in a lot of municipalities, everybody's stocking up with the assumption that at some point FEMA is going to declare, well, they did declare the emergency, and there's going to be reimbursement on this. So we're buying a lot of equipment, disinfecting equipment, PPE equipment, and stuff for the long term, because this is not going to go away short term. It comes July and everything goes away. Our disinfecting process is going to continue for a long time until this thing is eradicated. And we're talking about a vaccine maybe a year to 2 years out. Hopefully it'll be a lot sooner. But to help the piggyback on what Mark was saying, we anticipate that at some time there's going to be some grant money coming back or reimbursement for what we're already spending.
I've seen and read, or probably more read, that townships, other municipalities may have passed certain resolutions declaring a state of emergency for their municipalities to somehow put themselves in a better situation should there be any kind of reimbursement. Is that something that we need to do or look into?
The answer to your question is yes, but according to FEMA regulation, the declaration has to be done by the emergency management coordinator, which has already been done by Mr. McElroy. He's already has a resolution. He signed off on it as the emergency management, and that's what allows you to be eligible to get that money.
So the governing body doesn't have to do anything. The
governing body does not have to do it. It comes, FEMA requires the emergency management coordinator to do that resolution. And like I said, Mr. McElroy has already handled that.
And my last question, Mr. Tucci, I know we started with Community Park. I know a lot of the residents have been inquiring about Panther Park, especially in particular the track. Is there any plan in place or timeline in place regarding those facilities, or is that we have to wait and see what the governor does and we move from there?
Well, as far as Panther Park, the issue is the ball field. It's very hard to manage opening the track without opening up the ball field. As of right now, that's going to be on hold for a while until we see what the direction is from the governor. Once this thing starts to lessen a little bit, we may be able to open up the track at that point. But at this point, only because of the social gathering aspect of it, we don't want to do that, because in order to play on those fields, normally it's in a team concept. And that's not allowed at this point.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Maceri. And I was just looking at the situational awareness report that we have that we get from the Essex County, and I noticed, so we did declare an emergency on March 17th, 2020, just so
that's correct.
We have it, just so you have it for your records. Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. And okay, Councilman Tanella, good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Just following up on Councilman Maceri, Mr. Tucci, this is not limited to the police department. What about the other township employees? How is everybody holding up in town hall, DPW, what have you?
Well, as you're aware that we're on a rotational basis because of social distancing. Everyone is fine and well. We only had one employee who contracted COVID-19, and she contracted that outside of here. And she would have another condition, and she was quarantined. As a matter of fact, she has recovered. She's back to work. But outside of that, that's the only known case that we've had at DPW, Town Hall, that we're aware of at this point.
And you have a rotating basis with DPW employees as well, too?
DPW as well. And again, that may be lessening only because our workload is getting much greater, in particular our town facilities where the grass needs to be cut. Right. So we may be beefing up the manpower, but again, we may put up an alternate social distancing plan whereas the guys have to stay in their trucks. They don't come back to the yard. They come out, they only come back just to put the equipment away. So we're in plan B of social distancing at this point, so we can get our work done.
And with regard to services that the town offers, garbage pickup, recycling, everything is moving forward on a normal basis.
Yeah. There is no change, Councilman Tanella. Everything is as it was before COVID-19 came into place.
Oh, great. And you mentioned previously, I think at our first meeting, Mr. Tucci, when we had the first COVID-19 meeting with regard to donations, individuals in town who may, are in need. Is that still something that's available to individuals who, or businesses who want to donate either money, food? I know I've been contacted with those issues and where to direct those individuals or businesses who are looking to make donations.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we've had a few requests which we fulfilled. As a matter of fact, Cedar Grove is such a giving town. The donations and the people wanting to help are greater than the number that need them at this point. So we have groups, and anybody that needs it, please, we have an abundance of people that want to help you in one fashion or another, whether it be a gift card, whether it be helping you shop, or maybe just if you want to talk to somebody and you're lonely. So, anybody, please contact either the health department or my office, and we'll be able to put you in contact with and get you the assistance that you need.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Tucci. And then the last thing, kind of unrelated to COVID-19, Councilman Maceri mentioned Panther Park. What's the status of the new facility that Cavnanian is supposed to be building for us? I know we're trying to focus on COVID-19 issues. I'm just trying looking forward. Is that still moving forward with regard to?
It is moving forward. As a matter of fact, they were ready to mobilize now, like this month, the first week in May, but that got put off until the governor releases the construction projects at this point. I don't know when that's going to happen, but as soon as he releases it, that project will start up. I know there are a lot of other projects which are underway. I don't know if everybody got the Nixle on Bradford Avenue. The county started milling the eastern portion of Bradford to Montclair line down to Ridge Road. The part from Ridge to Pompton will be the next phase. Also, you'll see a lot of work being done on West Lindsley, the intersection there where Mountain comes in. The water department's doing some water repair there. And as soon as Smith-Somby's done on East Bradford, they're going to be over there reconfiguring the island area. And as soon as that's done, I'm told the paving on Route 23 will start. But we will put out the information to the public when that happens. Actually, the timing of it's probably pretty good with less cars on the road. There'll be a lot of less disturbance. The only problem is going to be the center of town and the businesses, which we're going to have to coordinate with them to make sure that they're functional, operational, whatever their status is at this point.
That's great. That's great news. That really is. It's just following up on that too with regard to Cavnanian. What's the status of the South End Firehouse and actually the Hilltop development? Can you give us a little?
Yeah, the South End Firehouse is ready to go. There was one operational issue there. The heaters that they put in, the design on them was a little bit off. And what was happening is they were very close to the second floor ceiling, and they were heating the floor up and was causing the flooring on the second floor meeting room to buckle. So what happened was they had to go back to the drawing board, redesign new heaters, and they're being reinstalled. As soon as that happens, it will be turned over to the township. We would love to have a grand opening, but that's not going to happen until all the social distancing ends. As far as the Hilltop development, that's been moving along quite quickly. They had 28 closings up at that property in the month of April, and they anticipate to have another 30 to 35 in the month of May. Things are still crisp there. They're working hard. They're building their low to moderate income units also, and that's the status of that project right now.
Mr. Tucci, a resident contacted me about debris being dumped, and I don't know whose issue it is. It may be just from Cavnanian dumping it, I guess, behind the development, down by where the trail is. I don't know if you're aware of it. I haven't been down there recently to take a look at it. But
I'll send somebody there tomorrow. We'll take a look at it to see what it is. It may be just a temporary storage area until they can dispose of it.
Okay.
But I'll have somebody follow up on it tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Tucci. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tanella. Appreciate it. I just one item I wanted to point out. You mentioned the paving. If you noticed over by the Morgan's Farm area, up by the center-ish of Pontonet, they added some sidewalks. I don't know if you recall, maybe about a year and change ago, we had a resident requesting, citing some safety concerns that the sidewalk just ends and then it gets to a steep slope. They did add some sidewalks in over there. Hopefully that'll continue. Mr. Tucci, do you know if those sidewalks will continue all the way up?
I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. The only thing I can tell you from our end is I know our township engineer was out there with a contractor on Friday to go over the replastering of the bridge abutments underneath the trestle. So we're going to be moving forward with that and also the landscaping underneath. We don't want to do the landscaping, obviously, until we do the concrete work because we'll destroy everything there. But hopefully we're going to get those minor improvements made consistent with the Deputy Director of Transportation's go-ahead.
Fantastic. That was actually my second item that I wanted to talk about. So that's I'm kind of, my questions, my council colleagues hit on a lot of the questions that I had. So the remaining questions that I have now are kind of looking forward, pivoting to what our world is going to look like, when we get back to some sense of normalcy. And, one of the things that I keep thinking about are small businesses. And, we fought so hard to make sure that we had a thriving downtown. And I think it's important that we continue to support them, and in whatever capacity we can support them. And some of the things that I'd just like to put on the table for consideration, with regard to some of our restaurants or coffee shops, outdoor seating. We have an ordinance that requires a permit for outdoor seating, and I think it's only 45 days. So some of these, we might be able to relax that going forward. Or if there's any parking or signage restrictions, some things that we might be able to do to support them and allow them to operate and function a little bit easier, or maybe get certain messages out a little bit easier. So, but let me stop there. But with regard to the outdoor seating, is that something that we think we might be able to relax?
We're going to have to take some direction from the governor's office on that. I have to see how their policies are structured toward outdoor dining. As far as the outdoor seasonal dining, that's from April to October. That's allowed.
Right. That's what I'm talking about is right now. And that right there is that a 45-day when you apply for that? How does that work, Mr. Tucci?
No. You apply for, you could apply for it at any time during that period. And those are the periods that you're allowed to have the outdoor dining that we allow from April to October.
Okay. So again, what I want to do is if we can look at either if there's outdoor seating that we could make the accommodate or make it easier.
But I could tell you this right now, that is not compliant with the governor's order right now.
No, that's not. I'm talking about looking forward.
Looking forward. No. That as soon as we're gonna look to try to ease that up at some point.
Yeah, I think about, I go down the list of a place like Delmonico's where they have the outdoor seating in the back. If and when the governor does relax those restrictions, if we can look at our ordinances to see if there's anything we can do to help.
Yeah, we can take a look at that
signage, parking, or outdoor seating. Okay. The trestle was my next item that you talked about, and I appreciate you providing that update. Deputy Mayor Peterson asked me to get an update on Mrs. Foose. Deputy Mayor is unfortunately not able to be with us tonight. She's working till 9 o'clock today. She's a nurse, and she's obviously very busy with COVID-19. We appreciate everything she's doing. So she wanted us to see if there's an update on. If you recall, we were going to do something special for Mrs. Foose. Obviously, in the capacity that we wanted to do it. But where does that stand now?
Well, right now that's on hold because I don't know the mechanism we're gonna be able to do this unless we're gonna just do this through Zoom. But once we get a handle on the mechanism to do it, we will. As a matter of fact, we had someone was celebrating a 100th birthday, and unfortunately we weren't able to present the resolution, even though we sent it over to the House. This person celebrating they were born and raised here in Cedar Grove. But again, we're going to have to develop a mechanism on how we're going to be able to honor these people. And once we come up with that, we'll honor Ms. Foose.
Mayor, can I have a comment on that?
Go ahead, Councilman.
You know, if the council agrees, you know, I think we're all in agreement that we want to recognize Ms. Foose and her contributions to the community. I would suggest, and again, I go along with the council, the majority of the council, we just wait till we get back to some type of normalcy where we're in person, as opposed to doing something online. Even if it's, we got to wait a substantial period of time. I mean, it'll be there for her, and I think it'll get lost in the shuffle right now with regard to the.
I agree, Councilman. I think it'll diminish the honoring of her by doing it any other way than in person.
I kind of had this vision of even doing it with her, and I'm sure knowing her, she'd probably bring kids down to the council chambers and do something for her. I mean, it's just, I'm excited to do it and looking forward to it, but I wouldn't want to do that here online if you guys agree, you know, the council agrees.
As a matter of fact,
I have no objection. I think it's
along that line, a couple of her past students that have been very successful want to come back for her honoring. And, you know, they're not going to be able to do that. And I want all these other people to participate and honor her also.
Yeah.
I have no objection, Councilman Tanella, to that suggestion, to pushing it off until the time is appropriate.
Okay. Sooner rather than later, right, Mayor?
Hopefully. Let's all pray. That's all that I have for tonight for my report. So moving on to item 6A on the agenda, consider introduction of pending ordinance number 20-859, amending chapter 208 of the Township Code entitled Rent Control.
I would read the same thing, Mayor.
Okay, I will. So ditto. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move introduction of pending ordinance number 20-859 to be published in full in the Star Ledger as a pending ordinance with a public hearing scheduled for May 18th, 2020.
Do I have a second? Second from Councilman Tanella. Roll call,
I'll second
please.
that, Mayor. Yep.
Thank you.
Councilman Cicala.
Yes.
Councilman Maceri.
Yes.
Councilman Tanella.
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Item 6B on the agenda, to consider resolution concerning extension of grace period for second quarter property tax payments.
Be it resolved that the Township Council hereby authorizes the grace period for the payment of the 2020 second quarter property taxes be extended to June 1st, 2020, with statutory interest assessed from the statutory date of May 1st, 2020 for property tax payments received after the extended June 1st, 2020 grace period.
Thank you, Ms. Stutz. I suspect we're going to have some discussion, but do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Maceri.
I'll second that.
Second,
Mayor.
Oh, I heard Councilman Tanella first. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala.
Excuse me, Mayor.
We're going to have discussion on that, Mayor?
Yeah, let's have this. Yeah. Before we do a roll call.
You want, okay, under discussion first? Yep, okay. Mr. Tucci, do you want to, there you are.
Here I am.
So I think it's a good point to have a discussion on this. You know, this is something that all of us have been discussing for a while. You know, since the governor, I should say for a while, since the governor announced it, there was a little bit of confusion when the governor did announce this. What he did was he made it discretionary for the township to go ahead and pass a resolution to extend the property tax payments to June 1st. I will say this, not all townships are extending to June 1st. And that's the purpose of this. Mr. Tucci, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, the reason why some communities are not doing it, and we'll ultimately find out whether you're going to do it or not right after this, but is because there needed to be a little bit more consistency with the order. The order allows us to extend the grace period, but our bills that are due to the County of Essex and to the Board of Education are still statutorily in line. So just as an example, we have to pay the County of Essex $2.8 million by May 15th or incur a late fee. We have to give the Board of Education approximately $2.4 million by May 20th of this month. Fortunately for Cedar Grove, we have enough collections and the wherewithal to pay those bills and still extend, only because of the financial position that we are in. So my recommendation to the governing body is that if you want to, you can go ahead and extend this grace period. It's really not going to impact us in any really dire way. So it's up to you, whatever direction you want to take. I know there's a lot of people hurting out there, and a lot of people are calling us to find out what the status is. And this governing body, I know, has always tried to help the public as much as they possibly could in any possible way, and not to the detriment of anyone else. So that's my report on that issue.
Thank you, Mr. Tucci. Councilman Tanella, do you have something?
Yeah, I'm hearing you right, Mr. Tucci. So we're in a financial condition to actually offer this extension to our residents through no detriment to the township.
Correct. And we'll still be able to satisfy our payment requirements to the county and to the Board of Education.
Yeah, that's great. That's great news, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Tucci.
Mr. Holm and I had a meeting last week regarding this. We went over the details, and we should be fine throughout this whole thing.
Mayor, if that's the case, I would move for us to make I'm in favor of us, anything that we could do to help our residents. And I know, like Mr. Tucci said, we all feel this way, and we always walk in lockstep. I would be in favor of that, implementing that extension as soon as possible.
Mayor, I echo with what Councilman Tanella just said, and I'd like to thank Mr. Tucci because at one point when we first heard about this, we were discussing what kind of detriment it would have on the township if we were to do this, and we had to weigh that against our residents who are in need. And as a result of what we're seeing right now, which really comes down to excellent fiscal management by the town manager and his staff, when something like this happens, here we are, and we're in a position to take the steps to help our residents, and it's not going to be detrimental to the town, at least not as of yet. Hopefully it won't ever be, but I want to say thank you to Mr. Tucci, because he's the one who has us in the position to be able to help our residents.
Well, when you have a great staff, it's easy to be the boss. That's all I could say.
That's great.
Councilman Maceri?
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to echo what my colleagues have said. And most important, I know, Mr. Tucci, you mentioned it earlier, we're all going to vote on that very shortly, but giving us really the opportunity to do what we want to do and know that we're one of those townships, one of those municipalities that has the ability to do it. And the mayor had said it earlier, that unfortunately there are some municipalities that had to make a very difficult decision. And I'm sure that every one of those council members or members of the governing bodies wanted to do what you're giving us, a very easy way, an easy vote, in my opinion, to help the people of Cedar Grove. And it's not against the detriment of the municipality. So again, to echo what my council colleague said and the mayor, thank you for giving us this opportunity to make this vote and know that it's not going to negatively impact our township. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I will say this, when the governor had said that he would extend the property tax payments. You know, I heard from every single one of my colleagues here with, you know, emphatic support. And because of you, Mr. Tucci, we were able to make that decision, hopefully make that decision shortly, a very easy decision. I can't say this enough. I've had the opportunity over the past few weeks to speak with mayors from just about every county that surrounds us, and on this topic as well. And not all of them are in this position to be able to say, hey, look, this is a no-brainer. We want to do this. And I know that all of my council colleagues here had all expressed interest right away. I know that I, of course, did as well, and Deputy Mayor Peterson. So thank you, Mr. Tucci, for putting us in this position to be able to consider this resolution and hopefully pass it. So with that, I have a motion by Councilman Maceri. I have a second by Councilman Tanella. Is there any more discussion on this item? No. Ms. Stutz, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Cicala.
Yes.
Councilman Maceri.
Yes.
Councilman Tanella.
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Okay, item 7, approval of bills.
Be it resolved that the summary of bills having been duly audited and found correct are hereby ordered paid in the amount of $2,937,504.78.
May I pause for a moment, Mr. Semeraro?
Yes.
A question before we proceed. There is a reimbursement for an expenditure that I had here with regard to a rec reimbursement. How should that be handled, Mr.
You should abstain. You should abstain.
Abstain from voting.
Yes.
Well, just let me clarify that point, just so everybody understands what's happening here. The Cedar Grove Wrestling Program signed up for a tournament, and each of the participants paid their own fee, and we reimbursed. And the mayor's 2 children also participate in that program. That's what this is. This is the reimbursement of the money that he paid in that the township is giving to everyone in the whole program. Just to clarify it.
Thank you, Mr. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Mayor, with that clarification, I'll make a motion to approve the bill list.
Thank you, Councilman.
Second, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Cicala. May I have roll call, please?
Councilman Cicala.
Yes.
Councilman Maceri.
Yes.
Councilman Tanella.
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Abstain. Okay, let me get back to my agenda here. Okay, all right, so now we have item 8 on the agenda. Contracts and agreements to consider resolution, award of contract for professional services, COA legal services.
Be it resolved that the Township Council does hereby appoint Serenian, Edwards, and Nolan LLC to serve as special legal counsel for affordable housing, meaning COA, commencing January 1st, 2020 and terminating December 31st, 2020.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Cicala. Do I have a second?
Second.
Just a little bit of discussion, please.
Sure.
This contract is with Serenian, and well, it was Serenian Associates. That firm had some of its principals that worked on ours leave the firm. So it was a choice between going with the new firm and staying with this firm. At this point, we're almost 3/4 of the way through our COA obligation and litigation, and it would be inconsistent to walk away at this point. Come December 31st, the governing body may want to reconsider at that point, but at this point, I think it would be prudent to stay with the firm and the attorneys that are handling it, only to see us to the finish line.
Mayor, can I ask a question, Mr. Tucci?
Sure.
Mr. Tucci, thanks for the clarification. With regard to Serenian, who's going to be the attorney of record, or I guess the attorney working with Is it going to be Mr. Serenian? Somebody
No,
else?
he has an associate. Mark, you remember what her name is?
Nancy Holm.
Nancy Holmes.
Okay.
I'm bad with names.
And she handled the litigation, the end of the litigation. She was very,
Okay. Okay.
very
That's all I
competent.
had. Okay. Thank you. That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Tanella. Is that it, Mr. Tucci?
That's it.
Okay, so I had a motion by Councilman Cicala, I believe.
Yes, Mayor.
And a second by Councilman Maceri.
Correct.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Cicala,
Yes.
Councilman Maceri,
Yes.
Councilman Tanella,
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Okay, so we're on item number 9. The meeting will now be open to residents of the township wishing to be heard on any item on or off the agenda concerning
Mayor,
township.
Oh, before you open up, Mayor, can I just have one comment? Sorry to interrupt you. Could we just confirm that the matter regard to the letter we received from Mr. Fry, that's going to be on the next staff meeting? I know Mr. Tucci mentioned it. Can we just put the agenda for the next staff meeting?
Councilman Tanella, if the governing body concurs, we'll just put it right on the agenda.
Yeah.
Rather than make it a correspondence, we'll put it on the agenda. This way, it'll be a topic of discussion under the council reports. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
If the governing body agree with that, I'll have the clerk do that.
No objection. Yep.
Okay.
No objection.
Go ahead, Mayor. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councilman Tanella, for pointing that out. Okay, so at this point in time, we're going to move on to item number 9, which is any item on or off the agenda. Mr.
Mayor,
Tucci,
just for the record, Mayor, you have 4 callers on the line.
Thank you. So what we'll do is, if you can listen for the last 4 digits of your phone number, we will go ahead and open up each line. And if you have a question or a comment, that will be your point in time to ask that question or comment. We're going to go down the line. Mr. Tucci.
Okay, Jeff.
Caller 9497.
Hi, this is Kevin McVeigh, 19 Briarwood Terrace again. I want to thank Robbie and the council for approving the resolution concerning the extension of the grace period for the property tax payments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh. We appreciate you calling in and taking the time out of your day to listen to our meeting here.
Thanks again.
Okay. Thank you. Next caller.
Caller 6896.
Hi, this is Jody Blyshaway, 35 Cedar Grove Parkway.
Jody,
Excuse me, could you spell your last name for the record, please?
Oh, sure. It's L-E-J-U-E-Z.
L-E-J-U-E-Z.
And the address on Cedar Grove Parkway?
35.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just have two comments and 2 questions. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. I just have 2 questions and 2 comments. First, my 2 comments. First, I wanted to thank you all, the Cedar Grove Recreation Department, and putting together these Cedar Grove Strong shirts. I think they're amazing for the community, and I know in a lot of respects it bonds a lot of people. So I want to thank whoever was behind that and give you all kudos for that. My second comment is about the track at Panther Park. And I recognize that it's very difficult to consider opening up the track. But I just want to comment that I don't know that it's impossible. I think there's, many communities around that have figured out ways to allow people to walk a track, and, maybe whether it be signage or, law enforcement, monitoring of the situation. But I would just ask that maybe there be some more thinking around the possibility to open up the track, because I think there's some concerns that the trails are getting very crowded, and so maybe just more, outdoor space for people to, walk or jog would help with that. And then my 2 questions are, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Is it Ms. Lejus?
Way.
Okay. Okay, Ledgeway. You know, I can tell you this just with regard to Panther Park. You can see by some of the questions that we had today, you know, it was something that was strongly considered, and it might be considered at a future point in time, but it does present certain challenges that we discussed with Mr. Tucci with regard to enforcement. And, you know, we have the rotation of our police officers and trying to block it off. You know, it is something that, you know, we'll consider, but one of the things that we keep saying on with regard to the parks is we have to crawl before we can walk here.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's one of those situations where, you know, we opened up Community Park on a limited basis, and, you know, we'll continue to review.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Anything you want
and then my
to
two
add?
questions are, what's that?
Mr. Tucci, is there anything you want to add on that?
No, you said it fine, Mayor.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank you.
Thank you. So my first question is around, so I know the county canceled their, I think it's biannual electronic and hazardous waste pickup drop-off. Is there any alternative to residents properly disposing of those materials in the absence of that collection by the county?
Through you, Mayor, unfortunately, no. At this point, you're just going to have to hang on to it. I know the county has already starting to look at alternate dates. It's not going to be that much into the future where that's going to happen. So that will be available to you. Please bear with us on this one. You know, we're negotiating with the county to get this thing happening.
All right, great, thank you. And then my last question, Mr. Tucci, on the situational report, is it possible, I love how you break out, you know, the percentage of total cases in long-term care facilities. Is it possible to do that for the death numbers as well?
Again, we only get limited information. If I had that information, I'd gladly put it on there. Let me check with my health officer, because there are some restrictions that they give us. As the mayor knows, he gets a copy of the report also. They give us information and we have to decipher and then get different information from different sources. But let me check with the health department. If it's possible to get those numbers, I will do it, okay?
Oh, I thought maybe I misheard you. I thought you said before that there were 80-something total deaths and only 4 of those were outside of.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood your question. I thought you were asking me to break it out for the nursing homes, like how many deaths per.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, just like the total for the.
Oh no! All right, let me. I think we could accommodate that request. You know.
Just for those that aren't able to attend these meetings, I know they read the reports and might find that useful.
No, okay.
Thank you. That was all.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Ledgeway. Okay. Next caller, I believe we have two more lines.
Caller 7800.
Well, good evening. Lisa Snyder, 4 Granite Drive.
Good evening. How are you, Ms. Snyder?
Very good. Tom, thanks for the clarification on the sit rep and those numbers.
You're welcome, Lisa. Good to hear from you.
And council, wonderful job in managing things from the perspective of moving forward with the grace period on the property tax. But my question is, I thought, and I don't see it on the agenda, that you guys were going to be discussing what was going to go on with the town pool. Was there a decision made?
No.
Or I haven't seen any more about it.
Yeah, at the, Ms. Snyder, I think we had discussed it as a topic perhaps 2 weeks ago. And the conclusion that Mr. Tucci provided was that he was holding off until the latest possible time to make a decision, because we're trying to balance making sure if we can open the town pool, we would, he's doing everything he can to do that. So that was, if I recall correctly, what was the conclusion.
Right. Again, the concern I just put forth is, you know, again, erring on the caution and safety of the town. But now that the mayor's put forth the academic calendar is now done for the year, you know, come June, fingers crossed that we're all out. But I'm sure there will be many things people will want to do.
Lisa, you mean the governor, right?
Or, yeah, sorry, the governor.
Okay.
Yeah, I can tell you, Ms. Snyder.
I mean, I know we're still working with May 15th, but, you know, he's now basically, you know, shut down the academic calendar, and now you're looking at,
right,
you know, do parents get to go back to work? What happens to the kids come June? You know, there's a lot of questions out there.
Mr. Tucci, if I may, Ms. Snyder, you know, this is not a decision that we take lightly, you know, for our residents. And I know that the governor has shut all schools for the remainder of the academic year. You know, there's a lot of different considerations that come into play with regard to shutting down the schools and perhaps some different considerations with regard to the town pool. I know some of the surrounding areas, you know, one town did shut their town pool recently, but some other towns are still in the same boat as us, trying to hold off on that decision to make sure that we make the best decision with the most up-to-date and accurate information.
Mayor, if I could just add a little bit to that. Ms. Schneider, just so you're aware, we don't want to prematurely say that we're not going to have a pool season. As a matter of fact, if you go down to the town pool right now, the pool is in go position. It's open, it's clean. So if we were to pull the trigger and say the pool's going to open, we're able to open it. The thing is, the social distancing and how it's going to happen. And that's something that we're just trying to hold off on till the last minute to make sure that we can do it, and we can do it in a proper fashion to protect everybody. But again, you'll see most communities are not making that decision right now because they don't want to give a premature no from now.
No.
And we want to leave open every possibility to make this happen.
And how does that affect the, I mean, I'm lumping in the concession stand being, I don't know, a small business. I don't know who that contract was given to, but, you know, I know it impacts them as well.
Well, that's part of the equation here also. I mean, how that functions. It'll probably function, I imagine, somewhat similar to a takeout at a restaurant, right? Everybody's takeout. I mean, but, you know, there's going to have to be precautions. I mean, how do we put people at the town pool, the lounge chairs, you know, people sitting next to each other, capacity of the pool, I mean, water quality issues. There's a whole myriad of issues here, you know?
Yeah, I'm thinking more of, you know, along the lines of actually people being in the pool. I realize chlorine, you know, may do something for the virus, but anyway, I'm just happy that you guys are holding off, considering it until the last moment and not shooting it in the foot. Because I know a lot of people are waiting with bated breath. You know, a lot of people here in Reservoir Ridge were at, you know, does anybody know anything about the pool? And I'm like, well, there's a meeting.
Well, it is in the forefront of our mind. It's just that now is not the time to make the call right now.
Right.
No, exactly. I mean, it's still too early. It's late in the game, but still too early to really nail that down.
But thank you for the question.
You know, a lot of forethought. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you so much. I believe we have one more line.
One more, Jeff?
That's it, Mayor. The other caller disconnected.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Going to the agenda, we are on our adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
So, get Councilman.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you all. Have a great night. Stay healthy.
All right.
All right, be well.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.